By the fall of 1943, the air battle over Germany had reached an apocalyptic intensity. The U.S. 8th Air Force, committed to the doctrine of daylight precision strategic bombing, was sending hundreds of heavy bombers, B-17 Flying Fortresses, and B-24 Liberators, deep into the heart of the Third Reich to strike critical industrial targets. The German Luftwaffe, defending their homeland, fought back with desperate fury, utilizing advanced radar systems, heavy anti-aircraft flak, and relentless fighter attacks. They were inflicting catastrophic damage on the American formations. The losses the USAF was suffering were unprecedented. During the infamous Black Week in October 1943, nearly 150 American bombers were lost in just 4 major missions. The second raid on the ball-bearing plants at Schweinfurt alone saw 60 B-17s shot down, a staggering 26% loss rate in a single day. According to German military doctrine, and indeed the military logic of any nation at the time, these casualty rates were completely unsustainable. The Luftwaffe High Command calculated that the Americans would be forced to halt their daylight bombing offensive within weeks, as they would simply run out of aircraft and, more importantly, trained crews. Yet, to the astonishment and frustration of German commanders, the American bomber streams returned. They came back the next week, the next month, and into 1944, each time in greater numbers and with even more resolve. The Germans couldn't explain it. They were winning the tactical battles in the sky, racking up massive kill numbers, yet they were losing the strategic war of attrition. How did the Americans keep the bombers flying despite the heavy losses? The primary reason German intelligence struggled to explain American resilience was a fundamental miscalculation of the scale and velocity of American industrial capacity. Germany, despite its initial victories, had a war economy that struggled with resource allocation, decentralized production, and Allied bombing disruption. They simply could not comprehend the total war mobilization of the United States. While the Luftwaffe was celebrating shooting down 60 B-17s in a single mission, American factories were operating 24 hours a day, achieving production rates that were historically unprecedented. German intelligence significantly underestimated America's ability to replace aircraft. By 1943, the U.S. automotive industry, led by companies like Ford, had fully converted to aircraft production. Ford's massive Willow Run plant, applying automotive mass production techniques, was eventually rolling a brand new B-24 Liberator off the assembly line every single hour. In total, the United States produced over 12,000 B-17s and over 18,000 B-24s during the war. These numbers were unfathomable to German planners. For every bomber the Luftwaffe shot down, American factories were building 3, 4, or even 5 replacements. The Americans weren't just absorbing losses, they were drowning the Luftwaffe in an industrial avalanche of replacement aircraft. The battle of attrition that Germany thought they were winning was, in reality, being lost on the assembly lines of Detroit and Seattle. However, replacing airplanes was only half of the riddle. Far more complex and far more critical to the German air defense planning was the question of personnel. A heavy bomber required a highly specialized 10-man crew, including 2 pilots, a navigator, a bombardier, and gunners, who had undergone months or even years of expensive and intensive training. The German system, increasingly strained by fighting on multiple fronts, was suffering from a critical shortage of experienced pilots and crews as the war dragged on. German commanders assumed the Americans, facing such massive losses, would be paralyzed by a similar personnel crisis. They assumed it would take years for the USAF to replace the 10,000 highly trained airmen lost over Germany in late 1943. What German intelligence failed to grasp was the astonishing scale and efficiency of the American military training machine. The USAF did not wait for a shortage to begin training. They viewed personnel exactly like industrial parts, as resources that needed to be mass-produced and standardized. The Americans established massive training commands that processed hundreds of thousands of applicants, but the key to their resilience was the development of the replacement depot, or re-depot, system. The USAF maintained vast pools of fully trained combat crews stationed in the United States and England, specifically designated as reserves. When a B-17 failed to return from a mission, a fresh, fully qualified replacement crew, many of whom had been training for months specifically to operate together, was already waiting in the depot and would be assigned to a new squadron within days. This constant, automated pipeline ensured that American squadrons rarely operated below full strength, regardless of the previous day's losses. The Germans, who often threw partially trained personnel into combat during crises, simply could not imagine maintaining such a luxurious and deep personnel reserve. Beyond industrial might and training pipelines, the American resilience was also rooted in a fundamentally different operational philosophy regarding the strategic air war, one that Germany, often fighting defensively, struggled to understand. The USAF High Command, while horrified by the losses, had accepted the air war over Europe as a brutal campaign of industrial attrition. American doctrine explicitly prioritized maintaining the offensive pressure on Germany over minimizing casualties. Generals like Curtis LeMay accepted that daylight bombing was intrinsically dangerous, but argued that consistency was the only way to destroy German industry and, crucially, destroy the Luftwaffe itself. The goal of the strategic bombing campaign wasn't just to destroy factories, it was to force the Luftwaffe into the sky to defend them. The USAF deliberately used the flying fortresses as bait to lure German fighters into battle. By engaging the Luftwaffe in large-scale air battles day after day, the Americans were steadily grinding down Germany's irreplaceable pilot pool and fighter strength. This strategy required massive strategic reserves, both of aircraft and crews, which the United States possessed. When the Luftwaffe High Command calculated that Allied losses were unsustainable, they were thinking in terms of German doctrinal capacity. They did not realize that the USAF was designed to absorb that level of punishment as part of their war of attrition strategy. The Americans weren't just taking punches, they were deliberately engineering a fight they knew they could win in the long run through sheer, unyielding volume. While industrial production, crew training, and strategic doctrine explained American resilience throughout the campaign, the dynamic in the sky changed dramatically in early 1944, a development that German intelligence again failed to anticipate. Before 1944, Allied fighter escorts like the P-47 Thunderbolt and P-38 Lightning lacked the fuel capacity to protect the bombers all the way to targets deep inside Germany. When the fighters were forced to turn back due to fuel constraints, the vulnerable bomber formations were left at the mercy of intense German attack, leading to the massacres of late 1943. The turning point was the introduction of the legendary P-51 Mustang, equipped with disposable external drop tanks. This innovation solved the range problem almost overnight. Suddenly, the USAF had a fighter that could outclimb, outmaneuver, and outrun anything the Luftwaffe had, and it could escort the bombers all the way to Berlin and back. The combination of the Mustang's arrival and a change in tactical doctrine, where escort fighters were unleashed from the bomber formations to aggressively hunt and destroy German fighters, catastrophically broke the back of the Luftwaffe. Bomber losses, which had been nearing unsustainable levels, plummeted. Germany's air defense, which had been winning tactical victories, was suddenly and utterly overwhelmed. German leadership struggled to adapt to this doctrinal shift in American strategy, having miscalculated America's rapid technological innovation and strategic flexibility. Ultimately, the reason German intelligence couldn't explain how US bombers kept flying despite heavy losses was because they failed to understand the nature of American total war mobilization. They were measuring the 8th Air Force against German capacity and German military logic. They looked at the raw loss numbers and assumed a corresponding decline in Allied strength. They did not understand that for the United States, every destroyed B-17 or lost crew member was an industrial and personnel challenge that had already been solved through mass production, automated training pipelines, and deep strategic reserves. The air war over Europe was won not just by the courage of the airmen in the sky, but by the relentless, industrial capacity of the United States on the ground. The constant, determined hum of the thousands of American bomber engines heard over Germany was the true sound of a strategic miscalculation, the terrifying roar of an industrial avalanche that the Third Reich simply could not stop.